I would take an approach from a private sector entity, not exactly a private sector entity, a consultant. I've been a consultant to a lot of government organizations, and one of the probably a case studies I'll present here is what I've worked for Indore Development Authority. Mr. Sharma and I were just discussing about Indore, and probably this would suit him a bit. Mr. Kantarao just spoke about electronic delivery of services, so I need not go into that. Indore Development Authority, I'll call it IDA from now, is quite like DDA. What works for DDA here? It takes land from the farmers, businesses, other people, cuts them into plots, probably sells it out, or leases it out to people who requires it, implements a few JNNURM projects as an exception, and does quite a few other things. It's a very small and simple organization, and whereas DDA has tens and thousands of employees, this particular place has only 275 employees, and the challenge is the number of employees are reducing every day, every 6 months as we speak. People are retiring and no new recruitment is happening. Well, that's another issue. Key departments are engineering and planning, who does most of the work. More than half of these are engineers, civil engineers to be precise. So what citizens get from this? How do citizens interact with an agency like a development authority? You want to see their information, you want to probably book a property, you want to probably pay your lease rates, you want to pay some other taxes, you want to pay your charges for transferring properties and things like that. In fact, IDA has made a lot of strides in computerization, and that is because it's an individual based process. The CEO and the computer department head are quite innovative, and they've thought things forward. So they've done quite bits of things themselves. I even know the EDP manager doing programming himself, which normally in other places would be quite an exception. So there are a lot of things happening which are online. In fact, IDA is one of the very few organizations I have seen which accepts credit cards. I mean, and at least in Madhya Pradesh, it's quite a new feature for them. So there are payment services that happen, work orders you can see, you can generate. There are property informations. If you are a defaulter in anything, you can go see that information. The challenge in this case was, it was the computer department performing almost many of the functions which were not related with it. How is a computer programmer, generating bills every month, or entering data about property informations? Even managing the courier, that was quite strange when we went and started studying that place. Same was with the finance department, which was doing quite a lot of work that engineers should have been doing. Now, this translated into an increased workload for some other people who are not specialized in that task. So when we as consultants went to IDA, we did a lot of brainstorming and ideation and thought processes, and said how could we get this thing through? I mean, the CEO was very excited, let's do computer, and we had to tell him, despite being the IT person, we had to tone him down and say, let's not do computer first, let's do something else, because that has been our experience with other bodies. I've personally worked for about 6 municipal corporations, and they have spent crores and crores of money on computers, and the benefits, to be honest, from a public setting has not been that encouraging. So we did, and in fact the work is quite successful. It's going on as we speak. So currently they were in a good state, small organization, packed, very neatly organized, good chain of command, people knew stuff. So from here, how do they move forward? For instance, we have duplicate bills that you can see, and we were just speaking about integrated bills. In fact, these people do an integrated bill, and all their charges can be seen through one, what they call a reference number. So that's an existing system, but how do you take it forward? So our plan for them, or our suggestion for them, was to ensure that you do how these Airtel or Vodafone guys do. 10 days before your bill is due, you get a message. 5 days before you get a message, last day you get a message, and after that you get. So that's kind of changing the dynamics from sitting in your office and things moving in an automated pace, from being more active. and not personally doing it. You just set up a system and it happens. Responsibility of getting the services lies with the customer. Now here, we wanted them to change the thought process and say, the organization has to provide that service. An organization has to, do things. In fact, it's a disclaimer or whatever, I own a property with this organization. I was so impressed with the work they were doing that I decided to buy one of their properties. So to do everything, you have to go and visit so many different people. To deposit a check, you have to go to one department. To get a signature, you have to go to another. Files move, but they were at their own pace. The thought process now was that you need not even come. Just go, just send your request online and it should be done. This has not happened. This is yet, in the implementation stages. Paperwork is currently required, and the thought here was move to as little paperwork as is possible. Now, I know for sure with your payments there is no receipts that are given out. You can your payment online receipts are proof enough. You don't need to do any other thing. Another important thing which we probably did not discuss here in this group is, and I as a private person know, we have to know the right people at each setting, or at least know the right position, so that we can go and get our things sorted out or done. So in this case, we say you don't need to have that knowledge at all. It's just a service, and you get your service done irrespective of the person or the personal setting. The point I touched before was, there was a lot of role mishmash between departments and people, and people doing things for other departments either as history or precedent, or simply because they started doing it and it continued. In the new pattern, the system would be the interface. So there is no need for a person to know a person. There are role clarities between departments, between persons, and as the system grows and develops, the need for an individual reduces. So if people retire tomorrow, there is, the system will automatically take care of the things that need to be done. These are the next two slides. I'll probably discuss a bit more. So what key lessons, we can draw from these? The first is having internal systems in place. Mr. Simley and others were discussing about BPR and processes that need to be, streamlined before we start on an IT and delivery aspects. These processes need to be thought out, put together. There is a fear of computers. What happened over here, even in this place also, that, the practical aspect was all of these people and engineers were using Skype at their home, and they were all talking to their sons and daughters in America and everywhere else. But the moment they came to office, they would require a steno to work, to even touch the computer, and they would probably see that, oh, I don't know the system, I can't prepare a BOQ, a bill of quantity, or whatever on Excel. And privately they would admit, we know this, we do it almost day in and day out. So whether it was real or unreal, we had to remove that doubt. So we, in this case, I personally came out with a 5-day certification program. We hired CDAC, and for 5 full days, imagine, in an organization this small, you are saying 20 people for 1 week will not work. They will simply be trained on how to use basics of computers, open the computer, do Windows, do some Word, do Excel, do an internet, and those things. And we even provided them certificates. So those things started, taking up. People became more encouraged, and when they found that, the officers were sitting with the clerks, there was more bonding between all of them, and slowly the organization has changed and become more receptive and has started accepting the computers even more. Sensitization of personnel to the need of the citizens. This is a very small organization, hardly serving max maybe about 75,000 people. So that's what probably wanted them. If you have that sensitivity, you will align your processes more in that. The next is being an engineering construction organization. They deal a lot with businesses. They have a lot of businesses coming in, developing works for them. They don't perform the work themselves. They outsource it, they contract it. if citizens can get a service, why can't those businesses be aligned in the same way? This probably can help addressing a lot of transparency issues that come up. We've discussed a lot on PPPs, and an interesting thing over here was we as consultants were trying to explain, instead of you spending 6, 7, 8 crores, whatever, on implementation and hosting the everything yourself, why don't you just roll it out as a SaaS or a PaaS or an IaaS service? The fundamental challenge was in getting the people to understand that if I spend a few crore rupees, where is the equipment? Where is it? But that is still there. That has not been addressed. And then we had to sort of back down and go to a model where they would set up an entire data center and see, the hardware and software with them. This is the last slide that I'll take up. And I'll probably combine both the institutionalizing e-services. Organizations like IDA, not so like DDA, are very small and not that much into public limelight. So should these be included or expected to follow up with what they are doing, whether the services they are providing? The National Services Delivery Gateway, it's quite interesting read, and how it's come up for urban local bodies and a lot of other things with the states themselves doing. What services these organizations can take, would a cost-benefit analysis be good if all organizations do it, The third point over here is, these are so many different organizations. Like for MMPs, for municipalities, we are seeing that at a state level, you have a common application, common data center, and things coming up. Can organizations like these, which are a bit disconnected, owned by the government, but still autonomous and providing public service, can these get together and do work out things that can probably save them time, cost, and everywhere you go they deliver the same consistent services? Probably that's all I have to say, and thank you so much.